while Gehrig was honored by friends, family, and teammates, including one with whom he had not spoken since 1934.
I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Thank you.
My mother and dad and I went to New York. We had friends in Brooklyn, my parents did, and my dad wanted to go see the World's Fair. So we got down to Brooklyn, and my dad, I remember saying, oh, we should go, my dad was Swedish, so he still had his accent, oh, maybe we should go to the Yankee Stadium while we're here. So we ended up in the Yankee Stadium. Unbeknownst to me, this was going to be a rather significant date, and it was a doubleheader with the Washington Senators. I can tell you that I remember the Yankee lineup. Bill Dickey caught, Red Rolfe was on third, Crosetti was on short, and Lazzari was on second, maybe just reversed. And Babe Dahlgren played first base. He was the guy that replaced Gehrig. And left field was King Kong Keller, Charlie Keller. And the Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio was in center, and Twinkle Toes Selkirk, George Selkirk was in right. And first game, Dutch Leonard pitched against Red Ruffing, and Dutch Leonard was a famous knuckleball pitcher in those days. And he, the only guys, Charlie Keller got 2 home runs, and the Yankees got beat 3-2. In the second game, the Yankees started a rookie. I think it was Monty Pearson. You ever heard that name before? Or Hank Baroe. I'm not sure. One of those two. Anyway, the Yankees won that game pretty handily. And I was telling Scott the other day that Washington was renowned in those days for having the first Cuban ball players in the big leagues, and they had some good ball players on that Washington team. There was a shortstop by the name of Carrasquel, and they had an outfielder by the name of Johnny Wheelie. But they had some good players. They had Cecil Travis, was a very good all-star third baseman, and George Case was the base-stealing king in those days in center field. So I remember that. We got there in time to see the introductions, and as the article said, we were lower deck. My dad, I don't know how we got the tickets. He probably just walked up to the window, I guess, and spent all of $1.10 each for 2 tickets. We sat in the lower deck, almost even with the third baseline, or with from second to third, right across from the coach's box. We were in the lower deck, maybe about 15 or 20 rows up, and they introduced a lot of celebrities that were there. And the one I remember the most was they introduced Dorothy Arnold, who was Joe DiMaggio's first wife, and she waves everybody. So that's the history. It turned out to be a very special day. Greg called me this morning and wanted to know if I would bring the ticket along. It's being insured by Lloyd's of London. I just want you to know. Between the first and second game.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you remember, I mean, can you envision the speech? I mean, you were there, you remember the significance of it?
I guess the words at that time didn't mean a lot to me. You know, I was 8 years old, and there was a lot of things that I didn't realize that was going to be important later on. But
now, when you watch the movie, The Pride of the Yankees, I told you I just watched it. It was on TV again a couple of nights ago, and I watched it. So when you watch it, I mean, does it bring back memories that it jogs your memory of things that you didn't recall?
Not really. I guess it happened in kind of a short span, I guess you might say. There wasn't any build-up to it, or wasn't any aftermath to it. Of course, I guess I kept the ticket. I had it pasted in my scrapbook, and that's why it's a little beat up compared to the one that was sold for $100,000 the other day. There's a picture of that in that. Scott dug up something in on the internet to authenticate the fact that the ticket is legitimate. They didn't have a date on it, or they didn't have a Yankees versus Washington kind of a thing. They just had the game number 34.
How long did he live after that day?
He lived about 2 or 3 years, did I remember?
2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. That I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Thank you.
2 years after his speech at age 37, Gehrig succumbs to his illness. His time was cut short, but his legacy will live forever.
Enshrined at Cooperstown, Gehrig was the first athlete in any sport to have his number retired.
One other memorable baseball experience. My mother and dad wanted to go to, after the war in 1948, the year I graduated from high school, my dad had his mother alive in Sweden and my father was alive in Norway, so they decided they wanted to go over and see their parents. And so we went to stay with the same people we did when I went to see the Lou Gehrig Day. And they lived in Brooklyn, so I took a subway down to Ebbets Field. And that night I saw Roy Campanella catch his first game in the major leagues. It was on July the 1st, 48 or something like that. And they moved, Bruce Edwards was the catcher. They moved him to third base. And they had the other catcher, Gil Hodges, they moved him to first base. So that's how that all transpired.
Interesting.
All in an effort to entertain Gordy Black. It doesn't get any better than it.
I've had a great ride.